First of all, I know this comment's coming, so can we not do the thing? Okay, let's get started. I've been a multi-console gamer pretty much all of my life. You know what? That's inaccurate. I've been a multi-console gamer for longer than I've been alive. And through all those years, PlayStation tends to be the least played out of all the other platforms that I ever owned in my life, with the exception of maybe PlayStation 2. And I think it goes a bit deeper than just the, oh, you're a fanboy, or you picked the platform that you liked and you stuck with it. There's through lines with decisions that PlayStation continuously makes that I don't agree with, and their philosophy just doesn't line up with how I play games or how I think about games. A good example of this is I'm not a big RPG fan, and that's what they consistently have on their platform. Now, I'm not saying that I don't enjoy any games that they make. I even like a lot of the RPG games. In fact, 2 of the 5 games that I picked for my favorite games last year were PlayStation exclusives at the time. But PlayStation disappoints me more often than not. And I have a few reasons for that. The biggest of which is a lot of the stuff that they do online. I'm not a fan of PlayStation Now. PlayStation Plus is getting worse and worse by the month. What even are the games that they put up this month? Like, seriously? Like, I'm not disparaging indies in any way. I think indies are great and they have their place. Shovel Knight, one of my favorite games. I don't know if I put it on like my favorite games for that year, but regardless, one of my favorite games. Other platforms, or really the only other platform that does something to this effect being Xbox, they have AAA offerings on their Games for Gold platform. I'm not saying that I always expect AAA. I think indies are great, but I think that if you're going to charge me the same amount and your big selling point is the value in dollars, you say, oh, it's this many dollars worth of games or whatever, it should be worth that dollar. Something to combat that a little bit is I understand that a lot of the AAA games a lot of people own already, and that's just as disappointing as getting a small game that you wouldn't have bought. Like, if they would have put Uncharted up, a lot of people would have felt ripped off because they paid the $60 to play Uncharted. But for me, I just think that they could do better. Another problem that I have with Sony that's not as big as a personal problem for me, as I don't currently own the platform, long story, is the PlayStation Vita. In my opinion, that's another one of Sony's broken promises. One of the big things that they tried to sell everybody on with the PlayStation Vita was play the console games on the go. For one, we only got a small amount of the games that I would call console gaming on the go. And even those were versions of games that I would prefer a more full-fledged version of on console. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for console gaming on the go. The reason why I'm so excited for Switch. But if you're gonna half-bake it, don't do it at all. Another thing that I don't like very much about Sony is how they handle their game announcements. And for full transparency, I'm recording this right after the PlayStation Experience press conference for 2016. And it's case in point, like most of the really big games, we don't have release dates for, and the ones that we do have release dates for, they're vague. It's 2017, because Sony knows that they're gonna push that back, because they always do. How long have we been waiting for Last Guardian? And this is slightly unrelated, but I mean, like, Final Fantasy 15 just came out. They handle their release dates like that. They just announce them for no reason, and they have no weight. They will go years without having a holiday title. PlayStation 4 hasn't had its own worthwhile holiday title since it's been released. And for me, I think that's a big problem because I'm really big on exclusives. I will buy a console just for its exclusives. I bought PlayStation just for Bloodborne at the time. And it's not like PlayStation doesn't have a pantheon of great exclusives that they haven't been using stored in their vault somewhere. They could always tap Activision on the shoulder for Spyro just like they did for Crash. Sly Cooper hasn't been used recently. Pull him back out. But it seems that they're more on this adult theme for games. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for adult games. Again, one of my favorite games of last year was a very adult game, Metal Gear Solid 5. But if that's your only focus, it feels samey. Everybody's focus is adult games, with the exception of maybe Nintendo. And theming isn't important for me personally for a game. I care about gameplay. If you're more focused on your game looking like a movie, then the gameplay usually suffers. I'd say the biggest of all issues that I have with PlayStation is how they handle backwards compatibility. PlayStation Now is awful. I would never pay that much money to stream a game, let alone to actually download them. $100 a year versus just adding it on to their existing online subscription fee that they charge me every year. Why not just do that? Why? Now I understand that they paid a lot of money for Gaikai. I get it. But I think there's a better way to make use of that purchase and make good on your investment without screwing everybody over. Because I mean, like, really, how much can you be making off of PlayStation Now? How many people have PlayStation Now? Please, if you have PlayStation Now and you actually enjoy it, leave it in the comments. Tell me all the things that's great about it. I'm tired of ragging on Sony. I do want to tell some things that I did like a lot about PlayStation experience specifically. I think Ni no Kuni 2 looks amazing, can't wait to play that. I think Uncharted 4's DLC was really interesting. I thought it was a Tomb Raider game for a long time, to be honest, but hey, it looks cool nonetheless. I think that Horizon Zero Dawn, every time I see it, it just makes me more and more excited. I want to play it, I want to play it now. I think the Knack 2 announcement was funny. There's a weird thing on the internet for that game. I don't particularly understand why, but hey, I can jump in for Knack 2. I'm all for some platforming fun. I'm all for Parappa the Rapper. That was one of my favorite games back in the classic days of PlayStation. And that surprise announcement of The Last of Us made me want to go and buy The Last of Us Remastered. I owned it, but that was another one of those phases that I was in where I was like, I'm tired of zombie games, too many gritty, blah, and I gave it to my brother. So I'm gonna go download that now. Let me know how you feel about PlayStation in the comments, and I'll see you next week.